Welcome to the Metasploit Mega Primer Part 17. In this video, we will look at something I would like to call scenario-based hacking. So there are a lot of ethical or unethical hacking courses out there, and most of these courses are available from different certification bodies. I wouldn't specifically want to name anyone here. The biggest issue is most of these certifications concentrate on tools than on the application of tools to different scenarios, and hence typically operate more on a script kiddie mentality. Also, real world scenarios are typically not used. That is, they just tell you, okay, this is the tool, this is how you need to use it, and that's it. Right? Unfortunately, what I've seen over the years is that students who receive these certifications find it very difficult to excel in the real world scenario, whether it may be pen test, vulnerability assessment, or anything else. Well, what is the real world scenario then? First of all, real world typically means a complicated scenario, whereas just using a tool is actually a very simplistic scenario. For example, if you want to go ahead and run nmap on a remote box, and if you just run nmap with the -sv and o command, which typically many of these certifications would teach you, then of course, ideally you would want to see the services and the operating system fingerprinting being done. But in the real world, what would typically happen is there would be a network-based firewall in front of you. Also, right, there may be a host-based firewall. Now, in presence of these multiple security controls, how do you use your tools effectively? That is something these courses do not teach you. Basically, what I'm hinting to is a very heterogeneous architecture in which there are firewalls, IDSs, IPSs, and many other things. The real world requires you to be the master of all rather than just a jack of all. And this is where basically scenario-based hacking comes into picture. So what is scenario-based hacking? Now, you have multiple components which may or may not be present in a given scenario. For example, your machines may not be patched or may be patched. The remote victim may have a personal firewall, antivirus, maybe behind NAT, behind a firewall, have an IDS and IPS on the same network. If it's a web application, it could have a web application firewall. So these are the components. Now in scenario one, maybe none of these security components are present, which is a very simple, easy to go about scenario. In scenario two, maybe the machine is patched, but the rest of the components like antiviruses, NAT, etc. are not present. Scenario three, maybe there's a personal firewall and the software is patched. Scenario four, maybe they also have an AV, right? So we could just go on to scenario 5, 6, and so on and so forth, and have a combination of these components in the scenario. And this is what scenario-based hacking is. What I plan to do is start from the simplistic scenario and then move towards more complicated scenarios in the presence of different components. Right? So we'll start with a simple scenario, no patches, no AV, no nothing, and then move on to more complicated ones in which you have a firewall and you have multiple application server clusters and whatnot. Also, we look at various interesting scenarios like how would a hacker break into someone when he's at the airport, probably using the Wi-Fi, or in a coffee shop, and some of these other interesting scenarios. Now, as you can see, scenario-based hacking definitely deserves a new video series and cannot be just a part of the Metasploit Mega Primer. And there are multiple reasons to that. First, scenario-based hacking typically requires more tools than just Metasploit, right? Second, it would require an understanding of both network and host security, depending on the scenario, of course. And because of all of this, we've decided to launch a new series which will run alongside the Metasploit Mega Primer called Scenario-Based Hacking. Of course, this will also ensure that I don't get bored just explaining one thing for weeks together, right? So this is a new series which I'll be launching in the next 1 or 2 days, and you would find a couple of videos slowly starting to appear. on the website. However, the Metasploit Mega Primer would also continue parallelly. And here is the roadmap. The next thing we would look at is Ruby programming basics. From there on, we will look at creating modules and extensions, doing exploit research, writing extensions, and many of these things. Right, so this is something which will also continue parallelly with the scenario-based hacking series. Well, that's all for this part. I guess there were no hacking demos or anything here, but I wanted to impart this key concept about why scenario-based hacking is important and why we are planning to dedicate a full video series to it. Okay, leave back your comments. And what I would really love is if you can leave behind a lot of scenarios which you want me to demonstrate from a hacking perspective, right? Well, that's all. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.